Hi, guys. I'm a little off. It feels like a Monday, right? I've been running and ripping and running, but I felt it was important to talk about day one of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearings, Senate confirmation hearings, and see what you guys think about it. I know if you watch, we've been following her from the time where they were trying to nominate somebody to when they were questioning her credentials to now is day one of confirmation. We have 3 days of confirmation hearings from the Senate to decide whether she's going to be confirmed as the first Black woman Supreme Court justice, right? All right, let me calm down because I just ran up the stairs. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. If you are tuning in now and you are not a subscriber to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that like button so that our videos can be pushed out to the YouTube algorithm. Also, check in if you're checking in or if you're in a live chat today, check in with us so that we'll know who the TXC crew is for today. Let me bring up my little notes because I made little notes so I wouldn't forget because as I get older, I realize that I don't remember everything. So I wanted to make sure I have some notes. But today was an interesting day for the Senate hearings, right? This is kind of like just getting started. I'll pull up a picture because, I mean, by now you should know how she looks, but I'll pull up a picture of how Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson looks and we can kind of talk about what was going on today, who showed up today for her, who was supporting her today, who was challenging her today or putting it out there that she would be challenged for the confirmation hearings. And yeah, I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible, but also going to insert my little opinions about what I observed as I watched it. Everybody's going to have their own opinion about what happened, and I have my own. So let's get right into it, and I'm not going to keep you long. Not going to keep you long. All right, so first things first. They started out the hearing, and I think I came a little bit late, but it started with the people from the Senate Judiciary Committee. And if you are not familiar with the process, in the Senate, they have different committees that deal with different issues that are relevant to United States, right? And they have a committee that just deals with the judicial confirmations, nominations, things of that nature, right? So it started out with members of that committee telling her what she's going to be looking forward to for the next couple of days as her confirmation hearings go along. So they talked about they're going to be questioning her record. They're going to be talking about things that she said in the past about issues such as critical race theory, her statement on the release of DC prisoners, what her previous judicial record is with the pedophiles and sentencing. That's a new one. Parental rights, so the issue of whether parents should be in charge of whether their child wears masks to school, transgender education, even at the kindergarten level. So they were just throwing issues out there. They said, this is what we're going to be asking you about because as senators, they're supposed to be representing their constituents, and this is what they're saying their constituents find are important issues to know about who they're going to nominate and confirm to be a Supreme Court justice. Because all these issues end up going up to Supreme Court, right? And you should want to know, how do these people feel on these particular issues that are important to you? And the same goes for like who you vote to be your senator or your representative, your House of Representative member. So they had to let her know, like, and they put the like, yes, you're very qualified and all, but this is still stuff we're going to ask you about when you actually we're going along with these confirmation hearings. So it was kind of funny as I watched her demeanor was very judicial because they were saying some crazy stuff. In mine, you could have probably been able to read on my face how I felt about it. As soon as she says, I think one of the committee members was like, and I heard you was trying to release these DC prisoners, about 1,200 of them. We had some really violent offenders. You trying to release them? And her face is like, I'll hold my tongue to the end. This is not my time to talk. This is my time to listen. And I would have been like, maybe I'm not ready to become a Supreme Court justice. Right? So they definitely were coming in strong when they first started. And she was very maintaining her composure. So I was very impressed by that. And I'm like, maybe I have a little ways to go, right? So if you guys are just checking in, make sure you check in the chat section so I can give you a shout out. But okay, so After they had that first Judicial Committee panel members come up and say that this is what they're going to look forward to for the week, then she had two people who came to introduce her, right? And it was almost like the process of when you get recommendation letters, when you go for a job. And of course, you're not going to bring somebody that's going to say something bad about you, right? But what I did hear was it's not only what they said that was good about her, it was the depth of what they said about her, right? It wasn't just like, oh, she's a great whatever. They had examples. They came with her first person was the former DC Circuit Judge, Republican President nominee, Tom Griffith. And he was at the DC Circuit Court, which is above the level she was at before, but it's currently at the current level she's at now, right? And he had raving reviews, and he wanted to point out that, yes, I was appointed by a Republican president to the Supreme Court, and some people might think it's weird that I'm supporting her, who's been nominated by a Democratic president. But at the end of the day, as judges, we shouldn't have any partisan ideologies that we bring to the table when we come to be judges, right? And I said, thank you for pointing that out, but there is some partisan kind of things trickling around. So that was the first person she had to introduce her. So he talked about she should be able to get bipartisan support from other people, even within the DC circuit. Now he says that there are other Republican nominated judges that support her, right? So they're not saying, oh, just because she is appointed by a Democratic president, they don't support her. Like, they looking at her judicial record versus like the politics of it all, which I thought was important. He said that while she was in the DC district court, which is the trial level court for DC, federal level, he had the opportunity to review some of her cases, right? Because once, let's say you're in the federal court trial level, if you don't like the decision that the judge comes up with, it, you appeal it to the next level, and that would be the DC circuit. So he had the opportunity to review some of her trial court written decisions, and he said that although he didn't always agree with what she did, she made sure her decisions were legally sound in that they could uphold the law, right? So he respected her opinion, although they may not have always agreed on it. He respected it, and he had opportunities to firsthand see how she deals with cases because he was one reviewing the case. So he also said that she has a very collegial demeanor. When you are working with the other Supreme Court justices, 9 of them, right? You have to somewhat get along to be able to come up with a decision about what's going to happen on this case. And he says she has that kind of personality that she can get along with people if need be, right? She's not like bumping heads, we never get anything done. Somewhat what happens with Senate, when they be having filibusters and everything because they can't get nothing done. She's not going to be the type to kind of hold up. Granted, you have the opportunity to dissent if you're a Supreme Court justice, meaning you don't agree with what the other justices said, you can dissent, right? And have your opinion of that. But even having that collegial demeanor, he thought that was a positive attribute for her. So let me stop. Let's see. We got Tracy checking in. I do want to know, committee members ask some employment discrimination law questions for me. Right. That, like I was saying, like if some issues are important to you, it may come up in the next couple of days and you want to kind of see like how she would respond to something like that if that issue was to come up. And this is important. And not that she will always decide in your favor, right? But I know that he mentioned that she goes with the law. Sometimes she sides with the government. Sometimes she sides against the government. Sometimes she sides with the individual. Sometimes she sides with the corporation. But what she does do is balance the facts in the law in her analysis, right? So it's not always somebody's going to win. And I think that was one of the issues with one of the previous nominees, Michelle Childs, when we did our live about that, saying that she has a record of always favoring the corporations, the big corporations, and maybe her, the corporation may have their hand in her pocket, and that can be a bad thing for the average person. Whereas Judge Jackson has a history of like, okay, it just depends on what the facts are. She can go either way. And it shows that she shows kind of impartiality towards whatever the issues are. So I think that's important. So let's see. That's all we as attorneys, as judges do. At a minimum, can you follow the law, but also not be afraid to challenge the law when necessary? Right. And her job, she said it, I'll get to that a little later, but she says that her job is to not, pick a side, is to really evaluate stuff based off the Constitution. And I think that the fact that she brought it back to the Constitution and what she's there, her job is there to do, and not make friends, but to abide by the Constitution, they said she even like takes lunch breaks and walks down to the archives, because this is in DC, where the Constitution and Declaration of Independence are housed, and remind her that's what she's there for. That's her job, to uphold the Constitution that is used to regulate the laws that we make here in Congress. And essentially, when you make a decision in the court, it becomes law, becomes precedent. So she has a reminder that she does that. So I thought that was pretty decent. Her second person that introduced her was one of her friends, one of her college roommates at Harvard College, and she's currently a University of Pennsylvania professor and former roommate. She's been friends with her for over 35 years, and she says she can speak to the excellence, the level of excellence that Judge Jackson had in Harvard College and to go on to law school. And she just started talking about all their other friends in their circle who support this nomination and her confirmation. And it was kind of powerful, the fact that like your circle is powerful, right? And it kind of made me sit back like, who's in my circle? You can just think about that yourself. Like, are you building powerful circles yourself? Like if you looked at the people around you and you looked at yourself, right? Are you guys all like striving for excellence? Are you doing great things? Because so her friend is a University of Pennsylvania professor. Her husband, they all met in college. Her husband is the dean of American University, and Ketanji's husband, and they also met in college as well. So like they had other friends that were like deans and other lawyers. I'm just like, your circle is a reflection of you, right? And based on that reflection for her circle is looking really nice, and she fits right into that circle, and they strive, and it seems like they support one another on a professional and personal level. So I thought that was kind of awesome to have somebody. First she had Tom Griffith, but then she also had somebody personal to kind of humanize her, right? She's still a person. It's not like she's not going to make mistakes. She's not going to think of things that, you know, if it's not a robot deciding, she's going to think of things, and it can be a good thing, right? It can be a good thing that you make somebody humanized because they can be empathetic, right? So she said that Ketanji Brown Jackson was one of those friends that can see all sides of things. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good thing. Like even in your personal level, you can see all kind of sides of things, which is not easy because sometimes with your friends, you're biased, right? Because it's your friend. But she was saying like she can really see all sides of things. So I thought that was kind of powerful to have those people introduce her. Because like I said, of course she wasn't going to bring anybody that was going to, you know, diminish who she was or say anything bad about her, just like you wouldn't have somebody write you a bad letter of recommendation. But the details of what they said to support the fact that she should be confirmed as the next Supreme Court justice, I thought was powerful. Comment in the comment section if you watch, and what do you think about, you know, that the introduction, the Senate Judiciary Committee members asking those questions. What did you think about that? Hit it in the chat box. Next. Okay, so then they finally got to Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? This is only day one. They have 2 more days where they're going to kind of get into the weeds of it, but this is kind of the introduction to her. And she kind of introduced herself. She thanked God first. That may or may not bode well with some people, but as a United States, we are built on Christian morality, right? So the fact that she mentioned God may not be necessarily a ding against most of her constituents, the potential constituents, right? She also thanks her family, her mom and her dad, who were also instrumental in her realizing that she loved the law. Her dad went to law school when she was 4 years old, and she said how her mom was holding things down, working a job and supporting the family while her dad went and got his law degree. And that's kind of how she got introduced to the law. At 4 years old, she was introduced to it. And the fact that her parents, you know, were educated people, right? And they wanted her to do better, and they tried to pour into her and give her the tools so that she could succeed. Obviously it worked because she's in this position to be nominated and confirmed as the next Supreme Court justice. She mentioned what her name meant. Ketanji means, an African name, means lovely one. And she said her family believes in the American dream. They named her African name, but they also believed in the American dream. Like, you work hard enough, you can go places in life. And she's the kind of the epitome of what the American dream is right now. She talked about the importance of public service. Both her parents worked in the public sector. She has a history of working in the public sector from the time she, you know, got out. And I think that's important because, yes, we have people who work in the private sector, but you can kind of get a disconnect from who you are and what you represent. There's such things called lobbyists, which are private corporations that pay a lot of money to get information and get legislation moves in Congress. And then you can kind of be in people's pocket. And she doesn't have a history of doing that. She has a history of public service, serving the public, doing what she can to help the public. She thanked different family members, but she said, I wanted to mention this. She mentioned her daughter. She has 2 daughters. And she said, thank you for, supporting her as well. And she said that she didn't always get the balance right. And I said, that was interesting because a lot of times women are faced with what, like, we decide, okay, men and women are parents, right? But women are always asked about the work-life balance. And I bring up on the screen, CNBC did an article recently about the first Black woman CEO in Fortune 500 on work-life balance. She says, this is Ursula Burns. She says, you don't have to go to all your kids' games. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of times the working moms are put in a position where they make sacrifices for the better of the family and the kids. And Ursula was like, I'm not here for it. Like, my husband, she acknowledged that her husband was a great support system, and that's how she was able to move to the top. But she says, I didn't go to all my kids' games, and guess what? I didn't feel bad about it either. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. In the article, she talks about how, yes, she had 2 kids, but she's like, she didn't believe in going to all the kids' games. She doesn't understand what that's all about. And she said she wasn't a helicopter mom. She said even when she did go to some of the games, sometimes she wouldn't even watch the whole thing. Sometimes she would do crossword puzzles and just like relax. I said, okay, there's no mom guilt there for her. Or at least that's what she kind of put out there. She's a CEO of, she was a CEO of Xerox. So she was the first Black woman CEO in the Fortune 500 company. And it's interesting because I know when Michelle Obama's book, she wrote about how women, they always ask her how you can have it all. And they usually don't ask men that, right? And she says, you can have it all, but probably not all at the same time. And I thought that was interesting because I know Michelle Obama took a back seat to allow her husband to go forward and be, with his campaign of being the president of the United States for 2 terms. And she very well could have been, further along in her career, but she decided to take the back burner and to be there for her children. And to say that you can have it all, but not at the same time is real. Granted, that's, in direct opposition to Ursula Burns, who says, like, you can have it all at the same time because get your spouse or have your village and be able to do everything, right? And don't feel guilty about not being able to be there for every second of your children's life because they'll be fine. So what do you guys think about that? Put it in the comment section because I have kind of a mixed thing. Like, as a mom myself and somebody who actually has professional aspirations, it really does, mom guilt is real. And so I guess Judge Jackson, she has teenage children, and she's just like, sometimes I feel like I don't give you my best because I'm trying to do other things. And whether that was good for the children to see their mom progressing, right? That's a positive thing, but also it's like, well, I wish my mom would be available to be at my games or at my meets or whatever it was. It's kind of a balance. So I don't know, she did what she felt was best, and that may look different for everybody. She did talk about she has a duty to be neutral, have a neutral posture, right? Not to try to take sides based on who has the most money. She realizes her limited role as a judge and her careful adherence to the precedent, right? Precedent, for those of you who are not familiar, it means like when a higher court issues a decision, that becomes the law. And to adhere to that law for other cases that come behind it that have similar facts, and you apply the law that way. So she knows her limited role as a judge, right? She's not a dictator. She has to adhere to precedents. She also referenced that she's been a judge for over 10 years now, and she has over 500 written decisions. And I thought that was a good nod because oftentimes when you interview for jobs that she's never been a Supreme Court justice before, but she has been a judge. But oftentimes when you interview for jobs, they're like, well, why do you think we can do this job if you haven't ever done it before? She gave an example, right? I issued over 500 written decisions. And as judges, they don't always issue written decisions. Sometimes they do decisions on the record where you just read it out loud. Sometimes they do the written ones. And so she's basically saying, like, I have experience with this based on my 500 decisions. And if you want to go back and look at what I've done, I have 500 examples of how I judge, what is my judicial posture, what do I do as a judge. So I thought that was a good a point, like almost an interview point, because this is kind of an interview stage of the confirmation hearing. So she said, go back and check my record. You know, it speaks for itself. She also talks about transparency. She brought up the fact that she has these written decisions because she said you can go back and look at it, and she tries to make an effort to know. She wants people to know what she's thinking about and why she decided the way she did, which also goes back to what the previous DC Circuit judge said. Basically, when someone is reviewing your case to understand how you thought about the law and how the facts are applied to the law, she basically says, like, that's what she makes an effort to do in her decisions. You'll know exactly what she's thinking from her decisions because she tries to be transparent when she's analyzing things. So, and at the end of it, she did an ode to Justice Constance Baker Motley, who was the first Black federal judge, I believe. And she says they share same birthday, but she thought it was apropos to shout her out. So I thought that was cool. So this was day one of the confirmation hearings. They had 3 more days, and then they vote to decide whether to confirm this judge that President Biden has nominated. We'll see how far this goes. Comment what you think. I want to let you know. I want to know what you think. If you share familiar opinions with mine, or you disagree with certain things, as long as it's respectful, I'm here for the discourse. If anybody else, I know some people have been coming in and out of the chat or in and out of the video. So let me know if you dropped in. If you're here for the replay, make sure you hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next video. I know I'm going to probably do another video on student loans. If you haven't been following that, there's probably going to be some changes before the alleged restart of student loan payments in May. I'm going to probably do another video about that just to keep you posted on what's going on with the student loans. But today I wanted to focus on day one of Judge Jackson confirmation hearings. I'll give us one more second, but then I'll close out this live, and we'll see you in the next video. Make sure I didn't forget anything. No, I guess I got everything. So thank you guys for tuning in. If I haven't forgot anything, if you haven't come in late, give a shout out. Otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and end the live, and be on the lookout for the student loan video coming soon. We're probably gonna also do another law school video. I know as everybody has been getting their acceptance letters from different law schools, and maybe starting in the fall. So, all right, see you in the next video.